Hey guys, I thought I'd record something new for the channel. Uh, Always like listening to audio commentaries that directors and writers and whatever do for. Well, they used to do it back in the day for DVDs. It doesn't really happen too much anymore for physical releases, and you don't get it on streaming either. So I thought I'd just fucking give it a go, see how it works out, and I got my good friend Al here to talk about a film that we both love. Isn't that fucking right, Al? We
Heyo.
love this show. We love Hard Target.
Love Hard Target, love John Woo.
Yes, cherish him dearly. Um, so essentially, what we're going to be doing is doing a countdown, and when we go from three, two, one to go, if you're listening, you can play it along with the film and listen to our commentary if that's your bag. Otherwise, you can just listen to it as a regular podcast. Um, all right. I
And
think
what is
I'm
the runtime that we have for the viewers in case they have some
Yeah,
sort of.
there's multiple cuts of this film. I don't know which one this is, but the runtime is 139:33. So if that tells you what version of it is, then that's the one you want to watch alongside this. Otherwise, yeah, unfortunately, a lot of John Woo's American movies got cut to fucking shreds. So it's debatable on which work print you're seeing or whatever the fuck. I don't know, but this is the one that I think you and I are most familiar with. All right. I think we're ready to go. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Three, two,
Two,
one,
one,
go.
go.
Yeah, I love the old school Universal
Yeah,
logo. See,
I
this
was
is
just.
this is not the one I grew up with. I grew up with like the weird like digital one that looked like the globe in your school classroom, but this one's like nice and classy.
Yeah. This one always makes me think of like what was the last film to use this like old school looking one? Because this one looks like it's from like the 60s or 70s.
I'm sure it's not that old, but yeah, it's definitely like.
Yeah.
I mean, this is '93, so yeah, this is like Jurassic Park, the one the logo you would see with that.
Hmm.
And okay, so first off, like fucking Woo's first American movie, coming off of Hard Boiled. This shit, it's kind of just completely new for him because it's basically
Hmm.
him doing this like noir western in New Orleans, and it's like
Yes.
it's kind of an odd choice given his like previous exclusive track record of just basically making yakuza movies, but he just goes straight into it, doesn't give a fuck, and he's just like, nah, man, we're a guy. I don't know. I mean, John Woo was definitely like an Anglophile and an Amerophile of cinema and
Yeah.
stuff. But I'm wondering, like, was he just like, yeah, New Orleans, that's my bag?
Yeah, I wonder, and I mean, I hope there's some like documentary material that I can. It's honestly kind of surprising. I've seen this movie so much, and I kind of haven't learned a bit more about it. But one thing that struck me on kind of the last few watches I had of this was, um, obviously there are a lot of elements of this movie that are very like kind of maximalist, kind of exaggerated, like almost cartoonish, but in a good way. But
Well,
there's
even by
certain
his
like.
standards too. Like this
Yeah,
is like a step above even what he was doing at the time, where it was like, all
right.
right, now we're kind of into cartoon world.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, like, even with that in mind, there are some certain undercurrents in this movie that are just like kind of totally get like parts of the American psyche and parts of like the American like way of life, especially um kind of the houseless like population.
Yeah, I
Like
mean, this is much more of a class conscious movie than probably
yeah,
most American directors at the time would make, especially for like a popular kind of action thriller thing.
oh for
Also, I
sure.
think it's important to point out this is the classic John Woo motif of the bad guys, in all black motorcycle helmets, riding
Oh
motorcycles, just
yes.
fucking like this is his kind of iconic his bad guy imagery. He just loves this
Hmm.
imagery of the fucking guy with a total black helmet and everything.
Yeah. the mooks.
But also, like, specifically the idea that it's like, all right, rich people hunting these veterans throughout urban environments, and it kind of has this gothic edge where no one seemingly gives a shit. Like, this stuff is just going
Yeah,
on in the open. Like, they're in like a golf course or someplace right now, and
yeah.
you're like, hold
Well,
on,
yeah, they're at
like,
the docks, like
yeah, they're at the docks and they're just firing off automatic weapons, and it's like, well, they got silencers and they're using fucking arrows and stuff, and I'm like, I don't
it's
know, man. They're also driving around like loud motorbikes and
yeah.
like, the explosions, shooting grenades. Like, look at this. Come on, like, this is fucking. I mean, it's awesome, it's incredible, but
Yeah. Well,
oh my
you know
god.
what? So awesome. Oh, man. He's got the my man Pick, he's got the M79.
Look
Um,
at this. Look at this. This is incredible.
yeah.
Oh,
Um,
executive producer Sam Raimi. We can't forget about that.
yes, yes,
Yes.
and
Look,
Moshe Diamant, of
I,
course.
I'm not a super like huge Sam Raimi fan, but I'll always fucking respect him for basically like having an eye out for Hong Kong guys and being like, yeah, this is
Mhm.
kind of where it's at. This is the good shit.
Yeah. Kinda going back to your point about, like, how this is a more, like, class conscious movie. Um, I remember one of the reviews I did of it on Letterboxd, I semi-jokingly said, like, "Oh, blah, 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 there's this good thing and that good thing about this movie, and on top of all that, this movie is Marxist." But, like, actually, like, kinda, but, more so, you can safely say it's more class conscious than anything. But the ultimate thing I wanted to say was, um, even in the kind of post Reagan, Bush, Clinton era, um, you would not really see a director making this kind of thing. And what's really interesting to me is how it kind of portrays this like societal crisis where, like you mentioned, nobody seems to care that this is going on. But if this were made, by a different director in like the mid '80s, that um, that kind of conceit of nobody seeming to care would be used as fuel for like a reactionary message in the movie instead of this is actually a pretty progressive message. It's like kind of the Cobra versus hard target dichotomy, whereas that's like takes the opposite conclusion. The classic, the cop needs all the power he can get because otherwise he can't prevent and stop crime.
Yeah, that is an interesting contrast to where, I mean, this does kind of have like a 70s feel to it, especially just, it's like I would almost say not neo noir, but again, like neo western, where you
Hmm.
would kind of see that later with films like, Hell or High Water and shit like that. But this is basically like a western. Like, this does not exist in any semblance of like a social, like, sorry, it doesn't exist in like a social political reality
Hmm.
because, no genre movie can. And I don't think he's
Yeah.
interested in that. But he's interested in like the conflict that is generated by that reality, and so you just get a world based on that conflict, and so it definitely comes into the western feel of like, there's this group of like, gang of desperados, like, it's fucking
Hmm.
Henry Fonda's gang and Once Upon a Time in the West just coming out and fucking, just breaking everything and wrecking shop. And you got the one kind of outsider underdog who goes into town, and also Jean Claude Van Damme in this movie, he's very similar to what's his name? Roddy Piper's character in They Live. He's this kind
Mm.
of homeless drifter guy, fucking greasy mullet, just coming in, fucking with the sunglasses and the trench coat. Like, you're going into it and you're thinking like, oh, JCVD, he always plays these like kind of like weird, dopey martial arts guys, but this is like
Hmm.
the first movie where he really plays like a cool dude who, can
Yeah.
handle himself. And like, he's playing not against type, but he's kind of exploring the avenues of his acting persona. And I think it's interesting that John Woo saw him and was like, this guy is a martial artist, but you keep having him play like this, this dopey, like Chuck Norris esque guy who doesn't know what he's doing, when you should
Yeah.
really just have him play like, again, have him play fucking Clint Eastwood. He's playing Clint Eastwood in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They had to have talked about that at some point. Yeah, we've definitely talked about this before, about how this movie just like uses him so well, and like it's this kind of movie where it's like you really don't need to provide that many details about his character, but it's like the perfect ratio of like the minimal detail is kind of fueling the maximal actual impact and maximal like um, kind of image getting across the screen to the audience of like this dynamic like drifter guy. Um,
How's the gumbo a tragedy? Incredible, incredible dialogue, just fucking astonishing. See, but this is like, if you want to know how John Woo shapes characters, look at this. He comes up behind JCVD from behind first. You see like his back. Then it cuts to the
mhm.
front. You just see his mouth, then his eyes, then his full face, right?
Yep.
Like that's how you introduce a character. That's how you introduce your hero. You tease it out. He's got a sense of visual economy to where he's not too eager about just shoving everything in the audience face all the time. He's like, listen,
Hmm.
he's got that Hitchcock way where it's like it's just as important what I don't show you as what I do.
Hmm.
So, you're going into this and like, JCVD doesn't, show up for a bit and you're like, okay. Like in a modern movie, they just shove him in like the first fucking couple seconds. But
Yeah.
here it's
Yeah.
like, all right, like he's almost like the conflict is incidental to him. He just gets roped into it, but it's not centered around him. He's just like
Hmm.
basically, the kind of regular dude character that he would play so often. And in this though, it's just more like he's filtered in through that man with no name lens. And yeah, look at this. Look at this. Look, it's to get information.
The
Like
reflection.
he kicks it open, sees the reflection. That's incredible. Like that's John Woo understanding. Okay, here's how the space is layered. Here's where a guy like
Yeah.
this, if he was self aware, he would do this kind of stuff. Like it's just incredible what he does.
When you start to see the faux slow motion, you know shit is about to pop off.
Yeah, yeah. The slow motion where it's not like high frame
which
rate.
Yeah, which is funny because it's like he uses slow motion so well when it's like real slow motion too. This part is really well done too, but it's funny because it's clearly more of like an after an ad hoc type thing, whereas the other slow mo is more planned maybe later on in the movie.
Well, the thing is, he you know, doesn't just do high frame rate stuff. He comes from like the peck and paw
Hmm.
school of how to do this. And, he does mix it up with the kind of, again, the faux slow mo. Like the difference is, I think a lot of John Woo ripoff artists would just do the faux stuff, whereas he like kind of
Hmm.
mixes it and he has a different sense of tempo where he's like, oh, this is appropriate here. This is appropriate there. Like he knows he has his toolbox, but he knows when to apply each tool instead of just unilaterally sticking to one thing. See, but look at this though. Like, it's
uh,
character reactions that are in slow mo. It's not just like
yeah,
hits.
yeah.
It's like people looking at each other.
I
He knocks
love
the
this shit
glasses
so
off.
much. The
It's
when
fucking
he like
Cajun.
moves his trench coat back, and it's literally like you said, it's the perfect like Western type of handling. It's like he's showing his weapon, and his weapon is his leg, and that's fucking so brutal.
Yeah,
He's also
it's so
got like
great
the
because you
perfect
think like
length.
like the usual kind of action hero at this time would be like, oh, I pull out a gun and I shoot these guys or whatever. But he's just like, but it's
Yeah,
that kind of sly humor that John Woo brings to it, where it's like, oh, this guy doesn't need a gun. His gun is his leg.
yeah.
And see, the key thing with John Woo with these impacts is he plays them multiple times. Like every time
Yeah.
someone gets kicked, they get kicked like twice or three times. It's you never have it played for just one moment. He like takes the impact and repeats it over and over and just, it makes everything feel like both, you know, interestingly photographed, but also just fucking brutal as hell.
Hmm. Yeah.
Also, okay, so we both love GCVD. We love Van Damme. This is kind of, I would say, like the perfect role for him. In as much as his career has always been him trying to navigate like him being a leading man, but also the scripts trying to justify why this guy who's clearly not an American is in all these
Yeah.
movies in America. And so,
Yeah.
you know, he's JCVD always has this weird aspect to him where he's simultaneously like an everyman dude, but he's also like a hyper trained special, like, he's
Mhm.
not like a Bruce Willis guy where he's just like, I'm just trying to get through here, pal. Like Van Damme, he can fucking kick your ass, like for real. He's like a trained dude, but in a lot of his movies, he's just kind of played as like the opa dopa dope. I'm just bumbling around my life, and just kind
Mhm.
of going here and there. And you're like, but dude, you're you're a lethal weapon.
Yeah. It kinda makes sense in his earlier movies like, Bloodsport and Kickboxer, where they really, portray him as kind of like, "Alright, this is just a young guy, this is basically a kid," and, his main thing is just martial arts and training, and that's all he does in his free time. But once you get older and you're clearly well into adulthood, it's kind of like, okay, what's the origin of this? What are you doing? Still doing martial arts? Are you in the military? Are you, you know, like
There's a
I
lot of
don't know.
movies where he's like a part of the French Foreign Legion and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Yeah, and yeah, I think between this Hard Target and Time Cop and Sudden Death, this is really like peak Van Damme. Just being able to flex his weirdness enough to where like it has big mass appeal, but he's not really sacrificing his persona to he's not leaning in on like Schwarzenegger around this time was kind of going into like, oh, aren't I funny, like he was trying to play
yeah.
on the image of like he was funnier, Schwarzenegger, when he wasn't totally aware of how funny he was, whereas Van Damme never really hit that. Like he never really understood why people like him, and I think that's kind of for the better because I think he made a lot more kind of interesting, eccentric movies because he never really understood like what he was supposed to be doing. So he just kind of did everything. He's like, oh, I'm gonna
Yeah,
do these weird thrillers. I'm gonna do sci-fi movies. I'm gonna do a time travel. He was just kind
yeah,
of like fucking around and being like, yeah, I'll do the Die Hard ripoff. And it's like, oh yeah, and he makes it one of the best Die Hard ripoffs. It's incredible.
yeah. Yeah, and I know this is another thing where I definitely want to learn a lot more about like Van Damme's life and stuff, and like because he definitely has like kind of a checkered career and like private life apparently, of course, but um he's
Oh, this
just
fucking simp.
yeah, dude. This is one of the things I actually love the most about this movie is actually the soundtrack. Um, but even during like all that turmoil and everything, he was just super prolific the whole time because man's got to eat.
Like he never took a break. Really, he never stopped working. Oh yeah, and if you're hearing that, that's Elle's cat in the background.
That's my cat, Yamcha. He's
Yeah,
my
he's a good
little
boy.
boy.
Yeah, but see, like, what modern action film made in Hollywood nowadays would have like a protagonist who's a homeless guy who's like just trying to get a job? You know what I mean? Like, this is kind of a lost art. Like, there's just not movies made about like Van Damme's not a regular person, but he's playing like a somewhat regular character.
Yeah.
You could say like there's an attempt to make it like something that the audience could be like, oh, this guy is just like a dude. Whereas
Hmm.
now everything is so hyper real that they just don't even
Yeah.
try. Like it's just like, nah, man,
Yeah.
this is the protagonist. We're not even gonna like pretend to ground him in an emotional reality.
Yeah. Yeah. This is.
S- This is like a classic noir thing, like the fucking lady coming in. It's like,
Mm,
this is Maltese Falcon and all that shit.
yeah. I never thought of that, but it's the perfect analogy. It's yeah. I, I feel like this part of the movie really, the previous part kind of builds him up because he shows his prowess. And you're like, oh, this guy must really have his shit together. And then you see this part, and it ends up being kind of, it definitely brings him way back down to earth because it's like he needs to get a job. He's willing to do, hard labor on a ship. uh, but he gets rejected because he has to pay his dues or
Yeah,
whatever.
and there's that kind of thing where, like Van Damme always took care to never play guys who were too cool, Like he always he
Hmm.
understood like I don't have to try hard to be cool. I can play the kind of guy on the back foot. I can play the guy who's not super slick all the time because like the audience doesn't want me to be that 100%. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's like he didn't need to dominate the screen with his roles. He could just be like, "No, I'm going to play a guy who's like down in his luck." Like, he
Yeah.
Van Damme specialized in being the underdog, like even more than Bruce Willis, because Bruce Willis you could always sense like was like, I'm schlumming it, but I'm also too good for this. Whereas like Van Damme does feel like a guy you could see, who's like, hey man, look, I just need a fucking job, but I'm also like an expert martial artist.
Yeah.
As absurd as that sounds, I do believe it. There is like an interesting, hound dog personable quality to him.
Hmm. Oh, this part is so great. I love this shit. Again, John Woo, like perfect framing, like
You look at this. Yeah, absolutely. This is,
the
like
fucking
this
the
is lovely.
western and like the slide guitar
Yeah, the
in the
twang.
soundtrack.
No, no, no. Yeah, it's lovely. But we also need to talk about in regards to this movie's score. This movie really leans on its score, which no modern movie does. Like I
Yes.
rarely like this movie like has a sense of musical cinematic scale to it, and it's not afraid to just be like, nah man, here's the part where the character has his own theme and he goes and does this, and this is the part where it plays. And like
Mhm.
I think the 90s were a great heyday for composers, just really like even in bad movies you often had great composers, just
Yeah.
guys like James Horner and James Newton Howard just coming in and being like, nah, I'm just gonna rip this, fucking let's go.
Yeah. Seems like they had way more free reign and everything. And then if the soundtrack didn't come out the way they wanted, then it would still be an awesome soundtrack. It would just be pushed to the back, more so. But I feel like nowadays, even if a movie has a soundtrack that takes risks, it's not like up front and center necessarily.
It's really
It's
buried in the
not.
mix. It's so
Yeah,
buried. Like they don't have any confidence in the sense of musical identity, which is sad.
exactly.
Yeah, but see, look at this though. Like this is like you could imagine this being a real like place where this happens. It's like John Woo
Mhm.
throughout his films is always he's really obsessed with like, guys who are just on the downslope of whatever in their lives. He has an innate sense of personal
Mhm.
tragedy that never really leaves anything he does. Even in his movies where
Yeah.
it's so operatic and crazy, he's always dealing with characters who are like, I'm traumatized or I've been screwed over or whatever. And he clearly just has this constant obsession with I'm not gonna make movies about people who are just there to be cool and awesome and do whatever. He's like, no, I'm gonna.
Mhm.
This is gonna be Germanic French opera where it's high strung emotions and people really kind of giving it their all for a situation that they take seriously. Like if anything, what I like about John Woo is that he's there's never a moment in his movies where it's just like, oh, audience, but isn't this silly? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like he never does that. He's always so
Yeah.
earnest, and I really respect that.
Yeah, the kind of reminding me of the, like, tragedy and everything that he shows in his other movies and this movie, with what you just said. Um, it's kind of now that I think about it, it's kind of like re enchanting, like, the modern and urban world by way of, like, showing that it's like, "Hey, we all have to wear these stupid suits, and we all have to go to work and everything, but that doesn't mean that we can't, like, be portrayed as, like, having, personal drama and personal tragedy that's, like, kind of, like, at home with some of the, you know, like, the great dramatic tradition almost." Obviously he a lot of what John Woo does is like very like kind of exaggerated and like I mentioned, sometimes even cartoonish, but really it's like isn't that what, opera and the classic plays are?
Yeah,
They're
and it's interesting him, being very influenced by American filmmakers because you look at his idols, guys like, you know, Jean Pierre Melville and Martin Scorsese and Sam Peckinpah, who are not necessarily the most histrionic filmmakers. They're not
Mhm.
like super duper ridiculously earnest. Like Melville is, he's pretty cynical and Peckinpah is ultra cynical. And Scorsese has his moments, with certain films. But you just look at something like Taxi Driver, and you could definitely see like John Woo looking at that and being like, "Oh, this is a movie about like an underdog," like you could see him really being influenced by Mean Streets and saying these are guys down on their luck, just trying to
Mhm.
make do with what they can. And he's so attracted to these just people who can't catch a fucking break,
Yeah.
but who have their own idea of themselves and never really feel like, oh my god, this fucking guy,
Dude,
incredible.
he's fucking Nosferatu, just the way that he's fucking framed. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
John Woo's bad guys are always like the most bad guys, like just completely fucking evil assholes, just complete pricks, and just like, no, you need to fucking go die in an acid bath. You know what? I wonder. Something that I wonder about a lot in regards to Wu is to what extent like he evaluates and thinks about these American movies he's made. Because after
Mhm.
he went uh, back to China to like make his kind of big grand epics that he did, I wondered him in like 2022, like what is, because I imagine he has like fondness for his original Hong Kong stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't know in terms of like these things. I wonder if he's like it's too compromised. I wasn't able to do what I want, or I wonder if he's okay with them, like because Wu was on a lot of his films was very challenged by producers who basically
Yeah.
kind of, I mean, and this is the thing, they just took the editing away from him in a lot of cases. Like Mission Impossible 2 is a
Yeah.
wonderful and lovely film, but it's the editing is slightly not always what you want. It was clearly just like someone took his 3 hour rough cut and chopped it down to
Mhm.
2 hours even, and you're like, so something is a little bit lost. Although I will say for this movie, I mean, this movie is very economical, very
Yeah.
short. Like really, I mean, shorter than the stuff that he was doing in Hong Kong even. And so like he obviously, I think he knew how to play the game, but I do wonder if he's like, if he looks on these with a certain respect for what he accomplished, because I think he should be proud, because I think this is,
Yeah.
I don't know, for the like to going to like a whole nother system and making this is very impressive, I think.
Yeah. I always think about that, how if this is his first American film, like, um, just the certain things that he gets right and the certain things that he's able to portray. And I don't know how much, English he speaks at this point, and you know, he's portraying this with like already a very practiced hand. Um,
Also, I love how this fucking henchman, the guy's name, like they're just like, "What's his name?" Mister Van Cleef.
yeah.
Just go for it. Fuck it. Also, the incredible, imitable, unstoppable Lance Henriksen.
Yes.
Just,
Yes. We and
I don't know, just an icon for many reasons. Just so underserved by the industry, but also I wonder. I think he's
yes.
happy also with where he's at because he got to play a lot of incredible bad guys and also just weird guys. I think.
hmm No, I we hadn't talked about him yet, but this movie, I think this movie is maybe like the best role I've seen him in,
I
Lance
think this is his
Henriksen.
Oscar. Yeah, I
Um, I think
I would
so.
say this
Yeah.
or Bishop is just really kind
Yeah.
of like tied because man, he is just off the fucking chain in this. He look at
He's
the way
going
he's
hard in the
crumpling up
paint.
the cash. Like he's look at them. He just fucking sucked that guy.
Everything
It's crazy.
everything about his performance is so fucking visceral and raw and like he's not afraid to like get his hands dirty, but
Oh no,
also
no,
he's
look, not
very
forget his hands dirty. He fucking punched the guy, got blood on his hands, and then wiped his hand in the guy's fishbowl.
yeah.
Like that's a John Woo special. You know what I mean? Like that's like look at this though, like the close up on the
Yes.
scissors, like that's
Yes.
it's these little notes of like, oh yeah, man, look at that fucking what is this bar with like the blue lights and the the Christmas lights up top of the neon. Ah, sorry, I don't mean to just do this commentary to be us fucking gushing about John Woo, but John Woo is, you know,
He
he's
deserves
one of
it.
the goats. He's one of the greatest.
Another thing I was gonna mention is especially during the kind of diner scene earlier, you first start to really notice that a lot of the sets um actually do end up looking like pretty like fake and staged and contrived. But I think it really like I love it obviously. Like I think it kind of adds to it in a lot of cases. But I think it's maybe a combination of the kind of cameras they were using and also, the sets just being sets. And it's not for a lack of trying though, because you see when she's like on the payphone and there's like all these notes and everything on the phone and there's stuff everywhere. So these sets have been like set up um, in a very like careful and like loving way, but the actual construction and of them is the way that they come off is like
Well,
it's almost kind of revealed
Wu
like a
doesn't he
stage
doesn't
play.
come yeah, like Hong Kong films don't, at least especially from the 80s and 90s, they're not about like trying to replicate reality really. And
Hmm.
honestly, nor should they, because I think Wu comes out of that tradition of like we're going to create a hyperbolic kind of
Hmm.
microcosm of reality instead of trying to aim for verisimilitude. And you know, like like also I do wonder when we talk about like what is cinematic realism, quote unquote. That's really like a different idea for everyone, right? Like what is realism to someone? Because it's just perspective,
Hmm.
right? Like you're not like what counts for realism and as a like say like a Nolan movie, what he considers realistic is just as stupid and inane as some shit that goes on in a John movie with
Yeah.
these doves and the fucking the
Yeah.
diving through the air. Like it's equally as silly. It's just that within a certain framework, it exists as its own universe. It goes into what it
Hmm.
needs to be, and you have to judge it on those merits. I think.
It's kind of like a almost like mythical framing, or it's like somebody's like recollection of events rather than actual footage of something that's happening, which I think is really attractive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that Sam Raimi kind of helped shepherd
Yeah.
Wu into the states because Raimi is like the American Choi Hark in that he just fucking like the way he moves the camera and just stages things is totally uninterested in any kind of quote unquote realism or like
Yeah.
it's like no one watches Evil Dead and it's like this is a documentary, bro. No one's doing that.
Yeah. It's not Evil Dead is not a found footage horror film. It's the polar opposite of that. Gotta love these nasty guys.
Oh yeah, and the classic fucking like '90s like whack sound effects that you fucking hear in cartoons and shit. Also, this is just like straight up brutal, like fucking trying to strangle this guy with the improvised noose and stuff. You're
Yeah.
just like, oh my god, fucking, it's brutal. It's brutal in a way that only really stuff like the John Wick movies are nowadays. Like this is like straight up like if you or I had to plan like an assassination, it's like this is probably something we would do. Be like, well, I'll get behind him with the noose, and oh my god,
Yeah.
and that you see that fucking that
The
George Lucas.
transition. Yeah.
I love that shit. You don't see that anymore.
I swear every time I watch this movie, every scene marches on way faster than I think it does in my recollection of it, and
Yeah,
it's
it's a
this
very
great
fast moving
economy.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, something I also like about this woman who like works at the police office is that I think a lot of directors would just make them into like an anonymous bureaucrat, but I like that when we first
Mhm.
see her, like she's like got the birthday cake and the like she has to put
Yeah.
it in the you know, just to put in her desk and like the candle starts smoking out from under it. You know,
Mhm.
it's like little like weird character notes like that that separate, directors who just do a job from guys who are interested in kind of like little fragments of beauty that they put into stuff. Like John Woo was like,
Mhm.
why don't we do this? Why this is interesting. Like, why don't we have this, be a thing? Like I enjoy those grace notes because they kind of take a character who's like, I'm here to serve a plot function and make it into, a real person.
Mhm.
I also say like for Van Damme, that little feature is definitely the fucking the goddamn the the ring he has in his ear. This is totally unnecessary, but I'm glad they did it.
Yeah. It's superfluous, but he would look almost bare without it because it's, this little shiny, um, accent to his, uh to his otherwise, like, pretty uniformly drab, appearance, with the dark hair and the dark coat.
Oh yeah. See, this is look at he's fucking actually playing
Uh
this goddamn piano. See, the thing here's my theory in movies is that like anytime you have a guy playing a piano, that's a fucking bad guy. Like no matter what movie it is, unless like you're watching like the Amadeus biopic or something, if they're playing a piano, they're probably a bad dude. But look, he's actually playing that fucking piano. It's crazy. Lance Henriksen, the god.
so so epic.
See, I love that bit though, where like he tries to pick up the phone, but his fucking ears hurt
Mhm.
from the cutting it off. Yeah, this is like the classic John Woo sequence though, where you have like a conversation happening, like something occurring, it's like something actually malicious
Mhm.
and it's happening, but then you got like this, kind of really lovely music playing otherwise.
Lance Henriksen doing the classic, American Psycho, staring at himself in a mirror
I mean, don't
while
we all? Don't we all? Come on.
every morning.
See, it's really fucked up because like the constant intercutting between this makes it feel like he's masterminding the whole scenario from a
Yeah.
distance. And like when you close up on like the homeless guy's face, he's just like your fucking heart breaks because you're like, God damn it. Like, he just looks straight into the camera and you're like, this is like he just has no idea what's coming. This crazy nonsense.
Mhm. And that's something I was gonna mention earlier is, like, even with all this extreme, like, portrayal of these hunts, it's all rooted in something that's, like, actually very believable and almost, like, kind of, I don't know if it's forward thinking, but you could definitely, especially with the rise of, like, technocratic, you know,
Well, it's what's
the
the next high?
deification of.
What's the thing beyond my
Yeah.
grasp? Right? Like I not okay, 100%. I could see this movie's plot happening right now if it hasn't already happened
Yeah.
at some point in
Oh,
history.
absolutely.
Like the idea of rich people paying like mercenaries to provide them with like the fucking safari thing with human beings. Like
Yeah.
the Elon Musk of the world would probably be like, oh yeah, that's my afternoon, hobby, and then I go for squash, and
Mhm.
then we eat some foie gras or whatever. Like this
Yeah.
is it's yeah, I don't know. It, I also like the idea, like the weird alternate reality this universe creates, where like these guys are kind of like MSF, where they just wander around the globe providing this
Yeah.
service to people. They're expert human safari like mercenaries, which is
Yeah.
yeah, I don't even know what to say about that. But it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, say like they did it in Rio, Yugoslavia. Like There's this idea they just go around to fucking shitholes, kind of like the Predator does, and they're just like, all right, we're gonna fucking this place is a hot spot for whatever. We're just gonna get away with murder, literally.
I love the
I do
way
like
that
the. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I love the way that his dialogue is written. Yugoslavia during the recent unpleasantness. It's like, yeah, like you mentioned, it's like they have some sort of like heat map of the globe where conflict is going on, and they see the hottest parts, and that's where they go.
What are bad things happening where we can
Yeah,
exploit people? Hmm.
it's actually they're like vampiric. They're like
Oh,
conflict
definitely. Well,
vampires.
I like the idea though that like the guy that they're currently, getting for the like their, he's like employing them. The current rich guy is actually later shown to be kind of just a wimp who's just like,
Yes, yeah,
and then they're like they kind of have contempt for him, and they're just like, fuck it, we hate your ass, even though we're giving you this
yeah.
service. See, it's another thing with like Christmas trees in the background. I wonder if this is a Christmas movie technically, because I never thought about that before, but maybe it
Oh
takes
shit.
place during Christmas. Christmas in New Orleans.
This henchman guy does a great job as well. He's
Yeah, lost art of being a good
destined
henchman.
destined to play a role like this.
This reminds me of that part in what is it? You Only Live Twice, where fucking he's like strapped to the goddamn like massage thing, and like they're trying to like stretch out his body like it's a torture rack. Just yeah, more interrogations and intimidations at massage parlors, I think, is a good idea. They say all this thing where like you don't see his face at first, and then it just like, oh yeah, this
Hmm.
guy, this motherfucker. Yeah, with, like the fireplace and stuff. Definitely, like yeah, kind of an interesting Christmas vibe.
She throws it, and then it's almost like the momentum just carries it right
With the
into the
editing,
fireplace.
yeah, yeah. Well, this he just appears like out of nowhere. Don't you ever
I,
knock? He's like
I-
Batman.
Again, totally vampiric, you know, looking like Dracula or Nosferatu.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of what? No, fucking, he played a vampire in Near Dark. Of course,
Mm.
it's a natural choice. See, I don't know why you would like open letters with like a giant fuck off knife. Like, do people do that?
I feel like it's probably more of like a rich person thing. Like you have that specialty implement that's like kind of a nice thing, but
Yeah, it's nice just to
it's
have a
like
dagger lying around in
yeah,
case you need it. Question mark.
like a semi dull dagger.
I see. Like, look, he picks it up in the faux slow mo. Oh, it's great. The step frames. Oh no, this shot is incredible. This has been like ripped off a million times with the
Oh,
like. Yeah, look at this.
that
Oh
is
man,
so perfect.
I'm pretty sure Luc Besson ripped that shit off in Leon the Professional, or at
Mm.
least one of his movies. I'm pretty sure. Look at this. Like he takes off the silencer by just twirling the gun around in the other direction, like it's like a fucking screwdriver or something. Yeah, the sad thing is, he's comment about Eastern Europe. They're probably working somewhere
Mhm.
there right now. God damn it. That's Henriksen, you son of a bitch.
It's interesting to me to see, um, so at this point, they're thinking, "All right, this really sucks, um, but, we can still do our business. We just have to, move shop. Tonight will be the last hunt." And it's awesome watching over the course of the movie from this point on the way that things kind of keep going wrong for them and how
Yeah,
they
well,
adjust to it. And
what I like about it is that like the bad guys aren't incompetent in this movie. Like they just
Mhm.
fucking like don't anticipate like a random fucking hobo like basically
Yeah,
being like they're because they acknowledge you're like this guy's a threat, but we'll probably be in and out of here before we have to deal with him at all. So we might
yeah.
as well fucking just accomplish our stuff quickly. So I think a lot of action movie scripts really have contrivances to be like, all right, like we need to make an explanation as to why it's always like, oh man, he's the best at what he does, but we have to
Mhm.
like be like, oh, the hero's a dumbass or the villains are dumbasses, and we gotta
Yeah,
bake that into the script as an excuse, which always kind of sucks. But when you get
yeah.
like something, fairly intelligent like this, where it's thought out and a reasonable scenario, then you can really kind of delve into it.
Mhm. Yeah, you made a good point about how the villains here are, actually competent, and then later on, you see one of the things that kind of levels the playing field is almost a kind of Home Alone style, um, you know, setup, to kind of counter their numbers, not without spoiling too much, but
No, no, it's not fucking spoiling. If someone's watching our commentary, like listening with the movie before they've actually just seen the movie,
yeah,
then
this is
then that's probably not the best option. Don't do that, listener. Fucking please don't do
yeah.
that shit. Like watch this movie first before you listen to our dumbasses.
Also, sorry, I meant to mention this, but the way he talks to him there, the way he talks to the homeless veteran there, when he talks about like buy yourself a new suit, be able to look yourself in the mirror, you know, that kind of like it's that kind of thing where it's like, he's just kind of bullshitting him, but at the same time, it's he is actually talking about values that they both kind of value. Like Lance Henriksen's character, like he was shown staring at himself in the mirror earlier, that exact same thing. Um, and he kind of has this look of like grim satisfaction about it. Like he's like, "Yep, I am kind of this actualized person. I am like
Yeah,
doing what I want to
he's like a
do."
yuppie
And
mercenary. He's kind
yeah,
of got this fucking like I just like it's almost like a he runs it like it's pretty cold and clinical. He doesn't really take any joy in, this is just a fucking business for him straight up. He's just like he
hmm,
treats the guy they're hunting like he's you're a business partner, here's your deal, here's
yeah,
what we have to offer you.
exactly. Yeah,
Also,
everything is
this fucking gun
transactional.
he has, this fucking I
Yeah.
don't even know what this shit is. It's some like kind of
Oh,
crazy, like we just slapped a whole bunch of shit on the gun. I don't even know.
I I looked this up last time. I'm gonna look at it. I think it's some sort of it's like the Colt SMG or the one of the variations of the Colt's um like smaller version of the M16 carbine, but then it has like some sort of drum or not drum box magazine, and then it has like a night vision optic or something on it. And of course, back in those days, the optics were fucking massive.
I also like how deliberately like the film goes out of its way to show that like this isn't like some kind of badass like oh man two guys squaring off like it's not like fucking in Predator or whatever. It's more
Hmm.
like these guys have to basically go out of their way to make it so that this dumb rich fuck has a chance of actually getting to him. And
Hmm.
again, like he's about to shoot him first off before he even gets a chance to run. He gets stopped from it. But
Yeah.
but look at this. Like now he's like the guy's wounded and now he can't. Fuck, he's like, ooh, I don't want to do it. And Lance Armstrong's like, you fuck, are you kidding me? But yeah, there's like what he just said, if you're alive or dead, and they're in this graveyard, there is a vampiric quality to these, like,
Mm,
this idea of like wealth as, they're basically just, it's not enough for me to just, you know, fucking make you economically disadvantaged. I also have to like
yeah,
literally murder you to feel good about myself and to get my mojo flowing. And it's like,
yeah.
you
And
fucking
all
pieces of
these
shit.
lit candles as like set dressing.
Hey, so look at this. He gets the fucking drop on him too. I forgot about that. It's like, yeah,
So fucking
it's
awesome.
these rich dudes just like they're coming and being like, oh, it'll be, all fucking romper stomp, just get his ass. Nah, man, like, what a joke.
Mhm. I
Yeah, but
love okay.
see, look at that.
Can
Look at that. Just like total with the crazy gun that he has. Just incredible.
can I just say, um, Lance Henriksen, this is one of the other reasons why I think this role is perfect for him is because he's a totally, like, actualized, like, character both aesthetically and, in his principles. But a big part of that, like, his physicality on screen is because he has that contender gun, and it's, like, so perfect. It's so, like, impractical, but it fits him so well, and you can tell that he probably, practiced a lot with, like, a prop or something, um, because it just he kinda treats it like an extension of his arm, and it's just this big hand cannon that's one shot at a time.
Yeah, it's
You
almost like a flintlock or something, but like
Yeah,
modernized.
yeah.
Also, this scene is just fucking breaks my heart every time because you got them like staring off like slasher villains, but then
Mhm,
like, man, this guy fucking. It is like a slash movie where he's going to everyone and just being like, "Oh man, can you fucking
mhm.
help me?" And they're just like, "No, fuck off." Also, obligatory Ted Raimi. Just ugh. Oh my god,
Yeah,
the
and this
editing is
is
supreme. Look at this. Oh, it's
the
fucking.
freeze frames, yeah. That's this is literally that is just what heroic bloodshed is, like, right
Yeah,
there. It's
yeah,
like
absolutely. Just
he
distilled.
realizes the situation he's in, and he's like, "Alright," you
He's like,
know,
"Fuck it, I'm not running anymore." I'm just.
like, Nietzschean, fucking, like, actualization or acceptance, like, not so much acceptance, but just, like, he understands what his fate is now, and, like, and literally you can see it all in his face. He's like, "I'm gonna face my fate like a man." This is tragedy, and I'm on the wrong side of history. And but if it has to be this way, then I'm gonna
Yeah,
choose to
that's the
face it.
heroic bloodshed. Like that's like John Woo's inheritance from Chang Che and Peck and Paw. That's just that attitude, dialed
Hmm.
to 100% with those two directors and going into him.
See, that guy would have been perfect for their business you know, um, before Van Damme and Mrs. Binder teamed up. But now, since that guy had somebody who cared for him, now they're gonna come fucking asking questions and
Yeah, well, I like this idea that these guys just assume that like no one gives a shit about like these
mhm.
homeless veteran dudes, and it does like very much apply into unlike like the post like a Rambo kind of action movie
Yeah,
formulation of it's like it's like, oh yeah, we're just gonna assume that this is the case, and it's like, motherfucker,
yeah,
you didn't account for a weird fucking homeless guy with a mullet, which no
yeah.
one ever does.
I'm gonna
Look at that.
remember
Look
that.
at the way that he tosses the shotgun instead of just like
Oh,
the flourish. That's a John Woo flourish. Like that's what separates him from other directors. Like no one,
there's
everyone will be like, you don't need to do that, but he's like, no, put that in.
there's so much great handling of guns in this movie. Like you mentioned earlier, like Van Cleef, he unscrews the suppressor by twirling the gun around, and it's like so
He's got
clearly
a
that
style.
it's also so clear. It adds to their character because it's like they're doing their job and these are their tools. You know, it's like, oh my god,
Holy shit!
the
Yeah, look at.
explosion,
See,
dude.
that's fucking. That's so
And
nuts. Like, oh my god. Even he's impressed. Even he's like, whoa.
but it's also that kind of, yeah,
Oh my god.
yes.
That ludicrous, like, loud,
Okay,
like,
let me tell
fucking
you.
IMAX sound. Just.
Yes. And you'll remember this, Yui, but a couple years back, I actually got a shotgun from my brother for Christmas, and after that, I could not stop cocking that thing. It was the most satisfying sound in the world. It's loud as hell. It feels awesome.
Just
And
as
I
good as in the
love,
video games.
yeah, I love that acknowledgement of the heaviness of it. Um, Also, that kind of amusement that Van Cleef had earlier, it's the amusement of somebody who nevertheless has like seen that happen 1,000 times. Is like, oh god, yeah, look at the way the blood sprayed, this time. This is
Yeah, but
brutal.
see, this is like the key to what John Woo does in these action scenes is that he always alternates between fast, semi-slow, fast. You know what I mean? Like he has
Yep,
a
yeah.
rhythm. There's a rhythm to it. You're never confused as to like what's going on. Every impact is just sold in the most fucking highly stylish way. I like look at this. Like again, he fires really fast with the pistol. The guy reacts in slow motion.
Mhm.
It's been I think only the Wachowski sisters really have come close to being like, we kind of are good at ripping this off.
Yeah.
Otherwise, man, it is really just not even a lost art. It's just his art, and no one can match it. I
Yeah.
just don't know like
Yeah.
why no one else can do this. Look at this, fucking he's diving through the air. Oh my god, it's incredible.
uh the dirt bikes.
I also love
God,
this thing
it's
of
so
like where
awesome.
he fucking like the guy's like already sliding to his death into the car, but he shoots him just to be
Yeah.
sure. Double tap, triple tap, just keep tapping. Oh, look at this. Fucking kicks him off the motorcycle
The
with the most loud. Oh, the motorcycle's so loud in the mix. It's great.
the way he shoves it in his waistband, it
Well,
has
not only
such
that, but
weight
in
to
slow
it.
mo, there's
Yeah.
the
Now
like
there's
John Woo knows which. It's like him doing an action scene is like constructing a sentence, and like he's like, all right, here's the adverb, and here's the
Mhm.
noun, and here's the adjective. Like every little punctuation point he has down to a T.
Yeah. One other thing I was gonna mention is, it kinda goes along with how I talked about the scenes keep moving, but there was a couple things. First of all, when Lance Henriksen, he shot his client, and then when Van Cleef shot the henchman guy, there was, like, basically no hesitation there, and I love to see that shit. I love it when there's no hesitation because why would those characters hesitate in that situation? If you're gonna, I'm I'm open to it, but they have to have some sort of actual character motivation that, I mean, in my opinion, that fits with their willingness
Yeah,
to
every
waste that
action is
time.
grounded in character. There's a reason for it.
Yeah. This is primo shit. Um, and one thing I kind of thought about on maybe the last or previous watch I had of this movie. Obviously, this is John Woo we're talking about, so he has experience with motorcycles, with guns, and everything.
And cardboard
But
boxes. Don't forget about
and
that.
cardboard boxes,
The
fucking
Hong
hell.
Kong special right there. If you see a Hong Kong
But
movie, I always someone fucking bumping into a bunch of cardboard boxes. It's great.
but the thing I was thinking of is there's just something about this part of the scene and some of the other scenes as well that just I can't get out of my head. It just does remind me of Terminator 2, and I can't help but think that there's some little piece of influence there. Um, even
Yeah,
though,
definitely. I imagine he saw the
yeah,
film, you know.
yeah,
Also, you know, T2 is also this like modern western in the ways that this
yeah,
is.
yeah. There's even a shot earlier where they're showing the dirt bike. They're following it from the side, and they're showing it. It keeps getting obscured by by obstacles, but they're following it, and it looks really awesome. This is just
This is one of the greats right here. This is
unmistakable, unimitatable.
I see.
So
Part of the reason
extra.
why this works so well, I think, is it's the same thing in Mission Impossible 2, where in that it's because of Cruise's kind of crazy long hair, but this with the Van Damme mullet, he
Yeah.
looks so good, and the hair
Yeah.
moves with every movement that he makes. You know, so when he leaps over the fucking
Yes.
car,
Yeah.
his hair's flying everywhere. You know, look at that. I mean,
It's
like
also
that's
so funny
uh,
because the way that his hair moves, the top of his hair is like untouched, but the bottom, business in the front, party in the back. Only the back is moving, but it actually conveys motion so well. Like,
so look at this. This scene is so tense because everything else is going in regular motion, but he's running in slow motion for
mhm.
that part. You know,
Yeah, and it
but this takes
continues
off his
to convey.
sunglasses. Fuck, let's go.
He's
Also,
reloading.
like his bullets have like dynamite in them or
Yeah,
something. I don't even
yeah,
know if that's a real
the
thing.
yeah, you see it later even more so, but it's like the bullet travels to its destination, and then on impact, there are explosions. Not at all what would happen in real life, but it works so well here. And this, I love this. Just one second. That showing him
Ah, that's so good.
like he's a hunter, and he's sizing up his prey, and he doesn't even look pissed off. Like he's probably very frustrated inside.
Yeah, he's just like,
But
all right, that's the situation. You know, like there's none of this like, I'm the villain and I'm so mad at it.
yeah,
He's just like, no, I'm a professional. This is what I do. All right,
mhm,
let's just get it done. You know, get the
exactly.
helicopters, boys. You know, we'll finish this.
And and kind of, yeah, going back to what I said about Henriksen, he just kind of watching the scenes in which he is genuinely angry and the ones in which he's not. It's so instructive about like what he cares about, what what he's actually after, what actually matters to him and not. And some of the certain things he gets mad about that kind of make don't make as much sense.
So this, I love how he hires like the fucking like the boomer dad
The-
core. Like, all right, we need to
yes,
assemble the you know like
there
our fucking Avengers team of like weird fucking paramilitary guys.
they're so clearly all the guys who read Soldier of Fortune magazine back in this
Yes.
period of the 80s and 90s, and it's literally the proto like aspiring operator type guys, but
Well, the guy's
um
wearing like white fucking like so camo in Louisiana.
Mhm. I like that guy in particular because he's carrying like a Valmet. It's like a Finnish variant of the AK, um, and famously was carried by one of the Valmet rifles was carried by Arnold in Commando.
The way this forest is lit, look at this. This is the way that like the opening of
It,
Rares of the Lost Ark looks with the
it's
god rays through the
yeah,
fucking trees. Like it
it's
looks like
beautiful,
cinematography. This movie is very impressive. Like it looks just aces years later.
fantastic.
You see all that? Like it's fucking it looks goddamn like tropical. You know, like you have this great sense of time and place and location. You know, this is like a real place where real people fucking live, and they just found this like way to photograph it beautifully.
Hmm. It's another all timer right here.
Oh yeah. See, this is also another totally unnecessary part of the movie that, like,
Mhm.
but just like they're just like, fuck it, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Get the goddamn snake. He grabs the snake. Her eyes,
And the
her
guitar
eyes.
solo.
Meow, meow. Goddamn fucking. Like he slaps it and he punches it.
Punches the fucking snake.
Okay, so I don't like. Can a snake be knocked out? Like, can you knock out a snake? Is that okay? Anyone who listens to this and you have dealt with a snake, like, is that a real thing? Like, are snakes capable of being unconscious? Because he knocks it out. He puts it up on the tree, and then the guy gets it later, and you're like, okay, I guess
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
I
assume it's
suppose I don't see why they can't, but
supposed to be some sort of, like, kind of almost like rigor mortis, like, I don't know,
nah,
reflexive thing or
that ain't rigor mortis. No,
is it
that guy got.
I
No way.
I guess, yeah, it's still alive, it's just really injured. Oh god.
Yeah,
Such
see,
a brutal injury.
thankfully though, they got a cool like puppet snake instead of just actually killing
Yeah.
a regular snake. Oh my
That is
god.
fucking brutal.
Holy
It
shit.
really looks like he blew that snake apart.
You know what I would also find interesting in the association of Raimi with John Woo is that they're both like very schmaltzy, kind of corny guys.
Mhm.
Like, just in a way where they one leans into action, one leans into horror, but they both love just like really messy, fucking corny ass, like just not even I wouldn't say sentimentality, just like straight up like you watch the first Evil Dead movie and all that stuff with the locket and him talking about
Mhm.
his girlfriend and stuff. Man, it is just some of the most schmaltzy garbage you can think of. But it's like it works. And I wonder if Raimi saw that as like a kinship with a lot of Hong Kong guys who also had that
Mhm.
appreciation for that way of making movies and approaching content. And yeah, I,
Mhm.
I figure oh yeah, and also oh, what's his fucking name? This guy.
Wilford Brimley.
Wilford
Yeah.
Brimley, yes. Incredible. The greatest Cajun.
Chance.
Jones.
Your Uncle Duvet, who's named after a piece of furniture.
Really? That's what it is?
No, I just know the word duvet is, I think it's a name for a, like, type of footstool or something. I could be wrong. Listeners, correct me.
I know. You
I
could
can
smell
smell
them.
them.
I could smell Lance Henriksen from a mile away. Yeah, see, this is such a like the last half of this movie basically turns into like a weird video game. Like
Mhm.
look at this. He's got like a chrome, like a solid chrome shotgun. It's all covered in dust and shit. It's like, what, you just left that up there in the rafters for the past couple of years? Ah, see, look at that. Look at that. That's a moment of beauty. He blows the dust off of it. Ah, that again, I keep
It's
saying
like
this, but that's what separates the wheat from the chaff at the end of the day, That's like, oh, I have your gun, here you go. Where it's like he appreciates it and kind of has like there's like a reverential moment in that,
yeah.
that's like directing is all about making choices and saying why this and not that, and why here
Mhm.
and not there. And John Woo consistently just always makes really interesting choices and says, let's like take a moment to kind of take in the weird little uh I don't know, like the gestures and the movements and you know
Mhm.
his movies are bombastic, but they're never, as much as I like Michael Bay doesn't really have any time for quiet or subtlety or like little bits of like fragments of um, coincidence. Everything is just very chaotic by nature. But
Hmm.
in this, because Wu is so vigorous in his directing otherwise, I think, when he does pause for those little like, let's have him, blow smoke off the shotgun. Let's have him look at this person, for a couple seconds longer than is necessary.
Hmm.
Let's, fucking, you could easily see a version of this movie. You could see a version where he just stumbles into some place, has nothing like, there's not even this scene with his family relation or anything, like in a lesser
Hmm.
version. And I think it's a testament, not only to Wu, but also like the writers and everyone involved, where they kind of took this, you know, they took this somewhat silly high concept movie and they invested it with a lot of detail and fun and in drama and like they took their time to make it good instead of just treating it like it's like, oh, it's disposable, whatever, da da da.
Yeah.
They gave a shit.
I also love how this his house is basically treated as like a fully destructible environment in video game terms.
Oh my god, yeah.
It's
This is like the Far Cry 2
beautiful.
moment when you blow up like some
Yeah.
fucking shack or whatever.
Oh,
I like how he's about to blow up this place, but he's like, "Don't you got to worry about the grass." Oh man, the guy on
lighting up
fire.
your lighting up your moonshine operation, which I assume is what it is.
Yeah, yeah, it makes total sense. Like it's you could be like, "Oh, yeah, totally." I could buy him having this plan with the
Yeah.
dynamite and all this shit. Yeah, the slow mo guys on fire. That's also a lost art. You never see that anymore.
Hmm.
Like I like how he just shoots him. He's like, "No, I'm not gonna watch you burn." I'm just gonna shoot you. Fuck that.
Giant explosion.
Also, speaking of Bay, just filming the explosion from all those multiple angles and slow mo and everything, you got to savor it. Fucking, if you put that money into blowing
Hmm.
something up, you want to make sure it blows up in style.
Yeah. Street sweeper shotgun.
Look at this. Like him right away from the explosion of a goddamn horse. Yeah, see, I like this too, where he's like, why are you trying to kill this fucking stupid old man? Like, he's just a distraction. Like
Yeah.
he does have this business approach where he's like, no, I'm just gonna kill that one
Yeah.
guy who fucked with my thing. Anything else is just stupid collateral.
Yeah.
He's so exasperated. See, but I do like how him and his fucking henchman Van Cleef, like, they do genuinely trust each other. And I always like it in movies
Hmm.
when you got like bad guys and antagonists who like aren't just like they aren't just like, oh man, we're all fucking evil and like we're gonna betray each other at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing. I always like. I'm like, no one in real life really behaves like this. Like, if
Yeah.
you got these guys who have been doing this for a while, like they're gonna have a way of talking to each other and a way of being, or you
Hmm.
gotta like have a foundation of trust. Like even if you're scumbags, like you need someone
Yeah.
who you can at least count on to understand your own scumbaggery.
Yes. That's a really good point that I had like subconsciously noticed on previous watches, but I hadn't like really vocalized it. Yeah, the kind of dialogue and interplay between the two like primary villains is like it's very almost atypical, but it's a bit more realistic in the way that they they clearly share a goal, and it's like they're not so stupid as to lose sight of that when things start going wrong. Um, Helicopter has trans flag colors,
I
by the
was
way.
about to say I never noticed that before. See, look at this though. This is like John Woo just going to America and being like, "I'm gonna make this like high tech kind of western," just high tech
Yeah,
western to Louisiana.
the
I can't.
incorporation of horses, like,
Yeah, man. Because I don't think he had horses in any of his other movies in Hong
mm,
Kong. I don't believe so. So he's like, look at it. I mean, look, like when the
yeah.
explosions go off and the leaves on the forest floor scatter everywhere. That's perfect. The visual beauty contained in that is just lovely.
Jeez.
Yeah, we need to like form a union of uh, like motorcycle riders with black helmets. Like, I think these guys need to
Yeah,
unionize because they're getting the short end of the shaft when it comes to this stuff. But they're really essential. These guys
yeah.
are the backbone of any '80s, '90s, bad guy crew.
They've been getting shit on for decades and decades. The faceless henchman.
Yeah, I always had
Ah,
a cool thought for like a fucking Batman type movie where it's basically just like the henchmen of villains, like the Joker and the Penguin,
mm,
just realizing like, guys, why don't we form like a bad guy union? Why don't we
yeah,
do this? Because we're getting treated like shit.
that'd be interesting. The abandoned warehouse is like seriously one of my favorite locales that you can have in any kind of movie. So in whenever it shows up, I never question it. And in this movie it actually works out really well because the whole time you're being shown this kind of post-industrial, like semi-urban environment. And so it's actually not any kind of surprise later on when they go into one of these places and, you know, it's their environment that they fight in.
Yeah, I also think just I don't know, like movies back then used to just be like, oh, just find some fucking location where we can do a lot of gratuitous violence in and a lot of crazy
Yeah.
stunts. And we'll just make it look great, Like this factory looks like the fucking factory in Batman '89, where it's got the
Yeah.
shafts of light and the weird ambience.
Oh my
Holy
fucking
shit!
god.
Look at that. Oh man, he flies out the window. It's crazy.
This is
You don't fuck
it's
with
really
birds in John Woo's movie.
yeah, it's really no surprise that I love this movie so much because my favorite anime is Trigun, and I feel like there's so much like similarity in the way that they that's like a space western, but it shares so much DNA. I feel like with this by being influenced probably by spaghetti westerns and like and other westerns, um, but also Hong Kong action and shit, and just like there's so much gunplay and stuff like that where he kicks up the gasoline can. Um, it's fucking fantastic. The jumping off points for spectacle that this movie has. Yeah, there it is. It's
Yeah, see.
fucking codified right in the script. It's like
Yeah, that's
I
the
don't get angry. I'm
goddamn
a professional.
Jean Pierre Melville. Like we're all cool dudes who can, smoke cigarettes together and just
Yeah.
chill it in Parisian cafes. Yeah, something I also kind of think is an underrated bit of John Woo is that his movies are very violent, but they're not actually like incredibly gory. Like he doesn't
Mhm.
really like he never lingers super much on like he's not interested in like body horror or gore to any
Hmm.
extent. Even in his
There's a
Hong
lot of
Kong stuff, like there's gratuitous violence, but there's not like he's not into it for its own sake. He's into the balletic motion,
mhm.
emotional qualities of it. That's what
Yeah.
he likes, but he doesn't just it's he doesn't like I think Peckinpah at points was just like, I want to see fucking dudes get eviscerated. I want to see 100 squibs. Like he had a bloodlust. Whereas John Woo, I don't think is like a bloodthirsty director. I just think he likes
Yeah.
the imagery of what violence can cause in the scenario, especially when it's so stylized. And speaking of stylized, this goddamn like weird carnival storage room in a factory in the
Mhm.
middle of nowhere.
It's so great because they set it up as this labyrinthian thing, and so kind of actually it's really genius in a movie that previously he shows off kind of his very literal portrayal of space that the characters are moving through. Now he's showing like, hey, that doesn't apply anymore. This is a huge maze. Um, so there is this genuine uncertainty about like where some of the characters are in regards to each other, and some of the taunting that happens across the warehouse. But he still portrays the space when there's two or more characters like interacting with each other, even if it's they're firing guns at each other. You see where they are in relation to each other, but not necessarily where they are in the bigger building.
Yeah. Also, I love this shit. Like, so Lance Henriksen's coat actually caught on fire from the explosion, and they were just like, keep rolling. And
Yeah.
he's such a pro that he just fucking nails this take. And it's like, God damn, he just actually got caught on fire. And that's the great thing about John Woo and also a bunch of other Hong Kong filmmakers is that there's just actual dangerous shit happening.
Yeah.
And it just seems like through sheer luck or providence that people are dying, which is, on
Mhm.
one hand, I don't want to see Lance Henriksen catch on fire, but on the other hand, it looks cool as fuck.
Yeah.
And like the slow mo, he's just screaming like, "Ugh!" You're like, holy shit. Also, we haven't mentioned this movie, The Double Denim of Van Damme. Look at him, double
Yes.
denim. The
Again with the
close up.
reflection.
Look at the oh my god.
Again, never done today
Look at
to
this.
like
Like
zoom
no
in.
other movie has done this. The upside down handgun firing with the
Well,
fucking Beretta.
Sicario 2 did it, and it was really
No,
awesome,
no,
but
but he did it upside, like right side up. He didn't do it upside down. Kicks the fucking cigar out of his mouth.
mm,
God damn, man.
I thought he did it upside down,
Go
but
back to the goddamn military surplus store.
yeah. Again, like with the total lack of hesitation, even on the hero's part, like the protagonist.
Yeah, I do wonder, like, what John Woo's obsession with the Beretta is. Like, not
Yeah,
that I'm complaining, but like he definitely, I don't know. It's just directors usually don't have types of guns they like in their movies, but
yeah,
he definitely does. I
it's
see this is
very
like a great
cool.
reversal of like where like the guy earlier was getting hunted with the arrows. Now these guys are getting killed with the arrows.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I think I read like some interview excerpt where he was just like, "Yeah, I just think the Beretta just looks really awesome." Like,
Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong. It does look awesome. Shot multiple times
this
in the
is
dick.
this is feminist.
I love how out of it she's just like, okay.
Yeah,
Like this actress does like a great, just bug-eyed look. I don't know.
yeah.
I haven't seen her in much else, I don't think, but she's great in this movie. Oh my god, these goddamn flips that he's doing.
It just cuts into this weird like heroic
Errol
score.
Flynn. It's goddamn fucking Robin Hood, Captain Blood swinging.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dualies.
So epic. The
So
kick
I
after
can't
just
just
filling him.
yeah. I'm gonna shoot you multiple times, then kick you in the face, then shoot you a couple more times just for good measure. God damn.
Another example of like what in a lot of other movies would be considered like gratuitous cruelty on the part of the protagonist, and it's just like, I mean, we're already the audience, we're already on his side because everybody who's hunting him now, they're all in this secluded space. You know, they've all hunted him this far. You know, we know that they're in the wrong. They're kind of condemned, as far as the movie is concerned, but it's still funny to see, like, just from kind of like a 80s action, like human rights perspective, like the way in which they die in like these spectacular ways, you know?
Yeah. Something that the like John Woo's movies get a lot of bullshit for is like, oh, no one ever reloads or anything. But he's always like
Yeah.
picking up mags and reloading in this scene.
Hmm.
So it's not like realistic, but there is like a thought to be like, we're not just gonna like make this like a
Yeah.
total cartoon, you know?
Yeah. Well, and the guns they're using, you know, the Beretta
Oh, and see, he
and
uses this shot a lot. This shot of two people divided by a wall. John Woo uses the
it's
shot like a million times.
fucking beautiful.
So look at this. Every time there's like a shot, there's like some kind of fucking weird thing exploding, like a can of paint or confetti,
Hmm.
glass breaking. Like everything has an impact, which I like. There's no like wasted moments of fucking gunfire. Like look, fucking the
Point
blood, the
blank.
squibs are getting on the glass. And see, something interesting that John Woo doesn't have in his Hong Kong movies a lot, because Van Damme can actually do martial arts. There's an
Hmm.
interesting mix in this where he's actually doing like kicks and punches and leaps and
Yeah.
like Chow Yun Fat doesn't actually do a lot of like punching or kicking in those. So there's like this really
Yeah.
cool mixture in this that John Woo just didn't have a lot of other performers who could do that stuff, but Van Damme is
Yeah.
perfect for it.
And that's one thing we've actually talked about previously with this movie is how Van Damme was the perfect fucking vessel for a lot of what John Woo could do. And it's really a tragedy that, you know, they didn't do more shit together. Because he really is like the total package for John Woo. And I feel like he was just kind of mismatched with so many other directors and writers throughout his career. Now, there were some like recurring ones that worked really well, like Sheldon Lettich and stuff. Um, but John
Yeah,
Woo
Peter
is one of the
Hames.
people I feel, yeah, one of the people that I feel really understood him and like his capabilities.
Well, yeah, you just get
Um,
a good match of like a guy who hasn't had like a shot to be in a really like truly great movie yet, and a guy who just needs to prove himself in this Hollywood system, and they just kind of both were exactly what each other needed at the time. Look at this, like his buddy gets shot, and he's
this
just like, oh no,
this is where, yeah, Lance Henriksen and Van Damme
he's so
have
jacked, he's
the
huge, he's fucking
God,
enormous.
they have their like kind of final like transformation into Now is when you really see the pyrotechnics um, come out of the contender and the shotgun, I guess.
Yeah, with amount of sparks and just fucking debris flying everywhere, it kind of reminds me of some of von Sternberg's movies where he just puts so much shit in front of the camera. Like things are so
That
dense that like
fucking
you're just
acrobatics.
you're overwhelmed by the amount of particulates on the
Yeah,
screen.
yeah. And now you have kind of a time you kind of have a time element too now that stuff is actually on fire. You know, you're like, this place
Yeah,
is gonna
yeah.
burn down. I love this part because it's like they're he's like wrestling with his demons, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Like Medusa. Here, Van
Oh, dude,
Damme
the
is like the
pushing.
demon. You know, Van Damme is like the demon tormenting him in hell. Really, that's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
this
you're
imagery is.
right. Yeah, I mean, this is John Woo's like very much, his Catholicism coming into play of like, this fucking whole place literally just becoming a hellscape.
An inferno, and
Holy shit.
the idea of somebody flying across the room like that, literally like they were like a Jedi, you know, force pushed them across the room. It's
Well, it's like someone
so
took
awesome.
the crane hook from like theater and just yanked his ass
Mhm.
back. Look at this. He ties her fucking hair up in the fucking arrow.
Yeah,
It's
it's so
nuts.
creative. Like, I also don't know if the comment about shotguns is totally true because shotguns are often a lot more accurate than people give them credit for, and especially if he had her at arm's length like that, I think you would be able to hit him without hitting her.
Yeah, I guess in like the movie
Um,
language,
but
like it
yeah,
makes sense. I mean, I wouldn't
yeah,
know
no,
honestly because
it's
my idea of like shotguns is formed by video games.
yeah,
See, look at this. I love how he's like this yuppie perspective. He's like, why the fuck are you here? He's just like,
yeah,
why'd you have to complicate my life?
exactly. I'm just a businessman, you know, and you just killed all my employees.
Oh yeah, it's fucking
This
uber
is
phallic bullshit.
There's so much going on here. This is very like Revolver Ocelot. This is like a more evil version of Revolver Ocelot, really.
A more evil version of Ocelot.
Because well, it's really talking about Revolver Ocelot in like good and evil terms is already kind of weird
Yeah,
and
it's kind of
flawed.
fraught.
But like, yeah, he would never do something like that. I feel like because he loves the feeling of reloading
Look at
so
this, the
much.
doves and the fucking or pigeons. The pigeons flying everywhere.
Fucking amazing. The way the blood comes out, like the life force. Yeah. You know, like you said earlier, I don't think John Woo is very interested in like guts and gore and stuff, but he is interested in blood a lot of times. Uh, I remember some of his like older it's slightly older movies. Seem to remember A Better Tomorrow having like a lot of blood and stuff, and
Oh yeah, there's a
I
lot of
feel like
squibs,
it.
but like he isn't lingering on like someone's
Yeah,
fucking stomach spilling out or whatever.
right,
Look
yeah,
at this. So
and it,
like I love how all like the people who got killed by Lance Henriksen just fucking get called up into his arm as he pans
it's
up to his chest.
it's insanely poetic. This is. I'm sure Hideo Kojima got a lot from this movie. Um,
Look at this. That fucking just total grace in that little
ultimate
slow
one
mo.
liner. See, this is great too because it just shows who he is. He knows how to disable the grenade, and he does it without any hesitation, and it still blows up as as an act of chance or act of God or whatever. But he's like that doctrinal, that professional to the
Yeah,
end.
exactly. He's like, oh, I got a grenade like shoved in my pants. Oh, I know how to like logically react to this scenario,
Yeah,
which I don't
yeah.
think anyone else in the world would. Yeah, this movie would be a lot worse if they killed Wilford Brimley at the end. I gotta admit, you can't do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it. Oh yeah, the classic. Like this is like a total Western thing too, like the whiskey bottle or like the tin star
Mhm.
blocking a bullet.
And ending with CCR. Oh my god! And then
CCR, baby.
the credits start crawling, and
Wow, what a fucking picture! Ooh, what a picture!
what a picture!
Yeah. Oh boy. Wait, his name is Van Cleef. Cleaf. Like, not even.
There's
I
characters
don't.
named Frick and Frack. Oh my god.
Frickin' frack. Yeah, don't you know?
Um, yeah, again we've talked about this before, but like if they're just would this is actually one of those movies where clearly made without any intention of a sequel, but I would have so happily watched a sequel that was made, maybe a couple years later, still with Van Damme and John Woo. I know there is like a sequel,
Yeah, there is a sequel with our
2016.
boy, fucking goddamn.
Yeah, what's
Sorry,
his
what's his
name?
name? What's his name? Oh, I know it. Not
The guy who does all the
the our DTV boy. Fuck, why am I not remembering his name? Scott, not
Scott Adkins.
Erickson. Scott Atkins. There we go. There we go. God,
Yeah,
fuck me.
which I don't even
Yeah,
know if I've really seen him in too many things, honestly. But
Scott Atkins is in a
I,
lot of good stuff. He's
yeah,
you know what I would tell you? If he was partnered with like a guy like John Woo, he would be a movie star. He absolutely would be. Like Scott Atkins,
yeah,
he's very charismatic, fucking incredible martial artist. But yeah, he's got some good stuff
yeah,
under his belt. He's like the fucking
sweet.
A tier of DTV material. Yeah, do movies end with CCR anymore? I don't think they do. Snake Wranglers. Wait, were there real snakes? Are you kidding me? Wait, were
I'm
some of
sure.
those real snakes?
I'm sure some of those shots were.
Hair for Jean Claude Van Damme. Thank you, Jan Alexander. You fucking did it. That beautiful mullet. We haven't talked about his mullet. Oh, we did a little bit, but
A
fucking
little bit, yeah.
magnificent mullet.
It's
Really little greasy
beautiful.
mullet. Fucking like he shoved his head in a vat full of McDonald's fry like grease. Just ugh, glorious. Yeah, action movies started to decline when guys couldn't have mullets anymore. Really, this was like this and Time Cop. I think were the last time you could get away with
Mm,
just power mullets.
yeah.
Afterwards, it was a lost cause, and things went to the dogs.
Recently, I've seen people in real life with mullets, like younger people, you know, around our age, but like they're going for it. They're going for it in real life, and I respect it. Some people can pull
Good
it
for
off.
them. Good for them.
I was so happy I was able to do commentary on this movie, one of my favorites of all time.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, I mean, I see. I used to kind of underrate this movie, but you really helped me come to appreciate more for what it is. Because
I
I watched the Hong Kong stuff first, and then when I came to this, I
Mhm.
was like, well, it's different, and I don't like it
Oh
because I
yeah,
want. Like, I was expecting like the next Hard Boiled or whatever, which this
yeah,
isn't. Like, it's really much more of a different kind of more Western influenced, more economical, like stripped back version.
hmm
But but yeah, thanks for this commentary. It's been fucking great
yeah,
chatting with you, Al. Hopefully this will be the first of some more we'll do.
yeah, for sure.
And for everyone listening, I hope you enjoy this shit. If you do, then fucking sound off in the comments. Whatever you got to do. Talk to me on Twitter. Talk to Al on Twitter. Al, you're
Yeah,
at
at
DJ90s Hentai.
DJ90s hentai. You, um, yeah, you might not enjoy my account. There's a lot of anime girls and everything on there, but
Anime girls and
I
Marxist racism.
yeah, I drop some truth bombs now and again. Sometimes I smoke a little bit of the devil's lettuce and start tweeting some 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 truth. So
And lots
um,
of cat pics.
yes, my baby boy Yamcha. But yeah,
All
thank you
right.
again so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Love you, Al. All right. That was hard target. Ugh. Love it when a
Woo!
target is really hard.
Oh,
L,
Otacon,
load me.
this target is really hard.
No, I don't think we can get any better than that.